terms of a perspective, 2 minutes in terms of perspective, and then we'll get into some of the Dept. What we mentioned in the earlier class is a couple of quick just benchmark points. Point number one, I should let Abe teach these because he was on the class and he got it right away. He owned it. Point number one is that holidays are not a result of something. Holidays are builders and enablers. So when HaKadosh Baruch Hu sets up the holidays in the Torah, these holidays were established before the world was created and are not a result of what happened, but are based on the need of Klal Yisrael to grow from point A to point Z over a period of time. Therefore, we don't commemorate things, we engage in things. We don't commemorate, we engage. Right, Abe?
Yep.
We commemorate, we engage. Good. So that means if I have the great good fortune to say Shahiyano last night, where I'm thanking Borei Olam for giving me life again to live another Hanukah, it means I have to delve into its messages, own its messages, and be changed by its messages. It's not a passive privilege. It's a privilege with obligations that come with it. Okay, good. So we stepped back into Hanukah. We have 8 days, and those 8 days should, and God willing, must prove transformative. Point A. Point B. We know that when we learn the Sulam, some of us learned that together, the ladder, Jacob's ladder, right? We understood a number of things from that. When we learned it, we added something this morning. I'm going to repeat it very quickly. We understood that there's absolutely no firm separation between this world and the next. There's an absolute flow. The Sulam, the ladder, wasn't interrupted and restarted when we ended the higher end of the physical world, and it wasn't interrupted and restarted when we hit the lower end of the spiritual world. It went all the way through seamlessly. That was one thing that Yaakov Avinu was made aware of, that there's a seamless flow and connection, and that, as we mentioned the other day, that we are spiritual beings in a physical platform. We are spiritual beings in a physical platform, and we have the access to flow up and down on that spectrum. Okay, we also made the point that the Sadiq has the power. We have the access, right? We just says we have the access. We also have the power. The Sadiq has the power to make changes appear. The Sadiq has reach up here. Good. Now, what we mentioned earlier today was our Rabbi's base on the part of the pasuk that says, "In the heart of everyone who has wisdom in his heart, I will give wisdom. In the heart of everyone who has wisdom in his heart, I will give wisdom," which is said in the context of the Mishkan, the tabernacle. It said specifically, primarily to Bitzalel, who was the artisan who made the tabernacle. HaKadosh Baruch Hu frames for us, and he repeats it about 28 times, that people who have Torah in them, who have Yeda in them, will be given a bonus of more. So if I learn an hour a day, and I should have an hour's worth of content, and I do that consistently, I end up with an hour and 5 minutes worth, an hour and 10 minutes worth. Ubelev kol chacham lev, the heart of everybody who has wisdom in his heart, I will put wisdom. It's unearned. It's a bonus. Good? Good. Next step. We add to that if someone learns every day, he is guaranteed that he is in Olam. So, we're as we say that everybody has a chedek in Olam Haba, right? We say that. Over here, we're bringing it to a different point, and we're saying that the person who learns, meaning that he's effectively already in. So, what we're saying is like this. Here's the open flow, right? From lower physical, lower spiritual, upper spiritual, God up here. The ladder went from here to here with no breaks. Yaakov Avinu saw this up until this point. You can't see God, right? But he sensed God up here. He understood that there's an uninterrupted and continual flow. And now what we understand is that not only does what a person does on this planet, not only does it put an expression, an eternal version of that up here, which is the eternal description of the human being, right? Person learns here for an hour. There's an hour of Torah that is your defining X up here. You do chesed, another element of you. So what do you end up looking like up here? All the good stuff that he did throughout your life. Now, what we're adding now is that to the extent that a person is learning here, he's already here. Not only just like he have access, but he's hanging around here. He's hanging around here. So what does that mean that he's hanging around here? A, that he has access. B, that he, let's call it he has access to him. He has access. So he has this unfettered access to knowledge, to closeness to Borei Olam, to closeness to absolute truth, to an understanding of an eternal life, to, all of those.
During the person's lifetime or
During the
after
person's lifetime. That's exactly the point. During the person's lifetime. So what we're learning today is that when a person is learning here, he's hanging around here, and what manifests here is not only the him after 120, but it's the him today. So he's living here and he's living here. Yaakov wasn't told he's going to get here after a certain point. He was shown the system. This is the system. Here. Access, inspiration, sensitivity, clarity, closeness to truth, closeness to Borei Olam. It's all in the system. Ongoing, open in the system. Good. Okay, so far? Joey, you should have a pina colada. My wife would have a pina colada already.
I know.
9 o'clock in the morning. What's the matter with you?
Pardon, I was waiting.
I'm very jealous, by the way. That view. How do we know it's not a green screen?
Yeah, here.
Yeah, it's not. Okay. If we see you
Hey,
drinking a pina colada on Monday, we're gonna know that it's real. Otherwise, we think you're a sketch. Okay.
So I had a question, Rabbi. There's the Mishnah, one of my favorite Mishnah, Elu Devarim, she'adam oseh otam, ochel miperotehem ba'olam hazeh, ve'akeren kayemet lo le'olam haba.
Right.
And it lists 7 things: Kibur Abaem, Talmud Torah, Achnasat Orchim. So
Excellent.
Is it limited to those 7 things, or is every mitzvah you do got a part here and a part there?
So it's overwhelmingly on those things, but I don't know if we did it together. Some of us did it together. When we get Ezrat Hashem, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps us, we say Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen. We get the Ezra from Hashem. The Ezra draws down on that Sachar and gives it to me here. So if I need it, I can draw on it. Melech Ozer Moshe Magen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu lets me draw on it. So generally speaking, it sits up there, but for the things we mentioned. But if a person's in a bind and needs to cash in some credits, so to speak, he can able to utilize some of that.
Okay.
All right, great.
So what's the ATM code, Rabbi, to utilize the cash-in of credits?
The ATM code is sincerity, connectedness,
and
right.
seatbelt.
Like
And
that.
seatbelt.
Now, and seatbelts, right. I'm driving now, put all this in your minds, hold all this in your minds, and now let's move to Hannkah. Hannkah was an absolute assault on everything I just mentioned. Hannkah was an attempt to destroy everything we just said, to absolutely bifurcate here from there, make it crystal clear that there is no such thing, there is no such continuum, there is no such access, and this is just a bunch of nonsense that you Jewish pious people are trying to float. Nothing like this happens, and therefore the way that the world works is that very smart people will think about things for a very long time and come to really great perspectives, and that's where things are. Now, that's very pervasive, very compelling. Aristotle, a pretty smart guy. The students, pretty smart people, right? As we mentioned, Rambam quotes Aristotle all the time. He was spectacular mind, right? Plato, spectacular mind. So, what's the point of separation here? The point of separation is we know that we have this, that everybody has it, and that the same way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here, he's here. And one of the things that we brought earlier from Masechet Kulin is that when the angels went up and went down, I'm just going to read it again quickly. Olim mistaklim dikuno shel mala, ve'olim mistaklim b'dikuno shel mata. When the angels went up and down on the ladder, when they went up, they saw what was going on up here. And when they went up, they saw what was going on down here. In other words, the down was also up. Like we said earlier, right? If a person can break through, if a person achieves a certain level of yeda, he's hanging around up here. They saw that. What does the Syrian Greek thing say? It says it ends right here. It ends right in the middle. You have lower physical, upper physical, and that's that. That's the end of it. And there will never be anything more than that. So you can talk all you want about up here. You don't have access to it. Nobody has access to it. Don't inflate your ego with these crazy ideas. We can achieve remarkably on a human intellectual level, and let's do that together. The Syrian Greeks say, and we're great. You want to tell me you want to sanctify a day? Shabbat, sanctify a day? What are you talking about? This is Saturday. It ain't no different than Tuesday. You want to tell me that some God that you think is connected to you told you it's different? Nonsense. Show me how it's different. Show me. Does the sun rise differently? Does the sun set differently? Does it never get cold on a Saturday? You're making this up.
They believe in God and the heavens.
They believe that there was a creator. They believe that there was a creator. They didn't believe any more than that. There was a creator, and maybe, and according to some, the creator still exists, but he's completely disengaged. Okay, good. So, good so far. The argument is very compelling. The argument was absolutely soaked up by the Jewish people. Yeah.
So the agnostic view came from where?
Sorry?
The agnostic view that, absentee landlord came from where?
It really started with Esav. Some people say this is another iteration of the Esav and Yaakov story.
So then who was Esav doing his avodah? Who was Esav doing the avodah zarah to? Like demigods?
Who was Esav doing what?
Avodah zarah.
We didn't say Esav was doing avodah zarah. That's not avodah. We didn't say that.
No, I'm saying it.
I know, but we didn't say he did avodah zarah. So
I thought he was huge into avodah zarah. No,
I don't know. I haven't seen sources on that. I don't know. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen it. I don't know.
Oh no, it was his wives that did avodah zarah.
Was who?
His wives.
Okay. So let's move one more step. One of the footholds for this argument within the Jewish people was the fact that it was manifest from a long time before. What does that mean? We have the obvious way, but we have the Yosef Yehuda civil war, so to speak. What is that? Yosef understands that the world has to be engaged, and you can engage the world with your Torah, which Yosef does, right? Yosef is the Sadiq, right? But we have the story with Eshet Potiphar and so on, right? Now we're in these stories where Yosef doesn't give up who he is to engage the world, right? He engages the world successfully as a Sadiq, as absolutely keeping all the Torah that there was to be kept at that point, right? And he does it. He's that spiritual person in the physical world executing brilliant, right? Yehuda's perspective is, doesn't work. If you're not enclaved, if you're not ghettoized, if you're not looking internally only, we can't survive. Therefore, when Yehuda sees Yosef's inclinations, even as a young man, he tries to kill him. He throws him in the pit. He's not getting out, nothing to eat or drink, to live there, right? What are we whitewashing here? He wants to kill him. He just doesn't want to do it with a sword. He wants to do it over a few hours. So, what happens here with the Assyrian Greeks and the Jewish people is not an old battle. It's a new battle with huge scars and wounds. Because what happens on the religious side is they say, oh, you Yosefniks, had you not engaged the world, we wouldn't have this problem. You can't successfully bring Judaism to the bigger platform, to the secular world. We can't do it. It doesn't work. You have to be absolutely in a ghetto with all the doors locked closed. You're a bunch of Yosef people. I tell you, this would be a disaster. So this is not a new problem, and it's not a new wound, and it's a manifestation of an eternal struggle within Jewish people. How much do we engage, and how much don't we? And it goes back to the fundamental argument of Yosef and Yehuda, and that which they were at war about. That which they were at war about. And Yehuda felt very strongly that Yosef was going to destroy the family and destroy the possibility of Jewish people, because he was, the rock star, the public guy, the guy who could make it happen. But guess what? That has great traps attached to it. So now, when this thing manifests, hundreds of years later, the Yehudanics say, you see what you did? You see? We wanted to stop this. We wanted to lock the doors closed. We knew that this was going to happen, that the minute you engage the outside world, you are destroying Judaism. Now, at the end of the day, what do we end up with? We end up with that we live in Tkufat Mashiach ben Yosef until we get to the Tkufa of Mashiach ben Yehuda. So what do we end up with? We end up saying that you have to engage the practical world. You have to engage the secular world. You have to bring Torah to that world. You have to be impacted by the Torah, by the insights of that world to the positive. And only as a result of that will you get to the ultimate Judea kingship. So, bad guys weren't such bad guys. The people who drank the Kool-Aid of the Assyrian Greeks, they were people like you and me. They were mainstream people who just went a couple of steps too far over the line, right? And they were following the Yosef model. They just went a little too far with the Yosef model. And from Yehuda's perspective, that was a catastrophe. And in terms of what it could have caused, had it gone unchecked, it would have been a catastrophe. Okay, so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just one comment on Yosef's model. It worked for him on his level. For the average person or even above average, I don't know if they could survive unless they're in a community the way we are, where we have the environment and the influences around us. But for any one of us to go and live in Australia without a community, I don't think we could make it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So Yosef happens to pull it off alone as a kid, right? As a young
Right.
man, pulls it off. But the argument is, okay, maybe you pulled it off. Maybe, by the way, maybe you really didn't. That tells him. Maybe you really did. Who validates that he pulled it off? Who makes it clear that he pulled it off? His father. Because when his father comes back, he says, Vayomer Israel. Yaakov says to Yosef, Amuta hapa'am, acharei ra'iti et panecha, ki odecha chai. Amuta hapa'am. Now he says, I can die because ra'iti et panecha. L'r'ot, we said, is to intellectually grasp, not to see. What do a person's panim? What do we say a person's panim are? Person's panim are their insides, their inner work. Panim el panim, right? He wants to see panecha, right? God, Moshe wanted to see the panim of Hashem. What does he want to see? He wants to see the inside, what he's made of, so to speak. So what does Yaakov say? Amuta hapa'am, acharei ra'iti et panecha. Now that I intellectually grasp who you are, Yosef, I see you did it. He odecha chai. You're still the guy. Hi, eternal life, the absolute connection. You pulled it off. What does that mean? Yaakov says it means we're gonna make it. The vision that Borei Olam had for us to live in the practical world, to engage the secular world, but remain absolutely ironclad in who we are. It worked. You did it. I can now move into the sunset. Yeah. Good.
Rabbi, are we saying that that Yaakov knew that Yosef was alive all this time, but wasn't sure about his devoutness, and only now he realized that yes, you are still devout where you were? Is that what we're saying?
Right. Yep. That's exactly right. It's a remarkable thing that Yosef pulled this off. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Yeah, but what are we saying that he knew he was alive? I didn't think so.
I hold, and we can look at it inside, that Yaakov, if he didn't know Yosef was alive, he had a strong feeling that he was. And that's why our rabbis say, those who hold this way, say that the reason he was in so much pain and he mourned for 20 plus years is because he knew he was alive, or he sensed he was alive. Because when a person dies, there's an ending. And over time, as the soul of the person who left moves further and further away, then the longing goes less and less. The longing goes less and less. But if a person is still alive and the soul never moves away, then the pain is as great in year 6 as it was in day 1. That's why we say that if Yaakov suffered the way he suffered for 22 years, it had to have been that he knew he wasn't dead. Because if he knew he was dead, it would have been, at a certain point, his mourning would have ended. But his mourning never ends. He suffers the whole time. Right? Okay, so far?
Yeah.
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 Also,
Joe, how do you feel about that?
Also, his suffering and mourning might have been that he knew he was alive, but he wasn't sure, not if he was alive or not. He wasn't sure if he was still connected spiritually.
Yes, could be. But when we see that Yaakov suffered and his children couldn't console him, His children couldn't console him, the pasuk says. Why couldn't they console him? Because he was still dogged by the fact that he's separated, but not gone. Very big thing, right? What could be worse than the pain of the people whose family members are still hostages? It could be worse.
That's worse than.
Could it be worse?
That's worse than the people that were.
Probably worse than. You shouldn't say any of this. You can't use any of these words. Say them and then get rid of them. But you could say that. Okay. Now, I want to raise one other idea, and that is that when Yosef suggests that they settle in Goshen, our rabbis on the more Midrashic Kabbalistic side say, and this is just to open the door in your mind for a bigger discussion at some point in time. They say that Goshen was an idyllic spiritual, overwhelmingly spiritual place. In fact, Nes Gadol Haya Sham, they use the gematria of Goshna. When Yosef tells Yehuda, we're going Goshna to Goshen, Gimel Shin Nun Hey, Nes Gadol Haya Sham, it's the same 4 letters. So our rabbis tie the two together. They tie Hannkah to this. And they say that Goshen was the place where this began to realize on the Yosef level. In other words, the idea of a spiritual existence here in a physical world, but overwhelmingly spiritual, was Goshen. The fact is interesting also because who did Goshen belong to? Who did Goshen belong to? Who had the deed?
The Jews.
Who had the deed of Goshen? Come on.
Oh,
No.
The
Who
Jews.
did Paro give Goshen to?
Yosef.
Nope.
No.
Come on, guys. You guys gotta join the earlier classes. What did he give it to? Who?
I always thought it was just empty land.
Who? David, who said, somebody say Sarah? Nobody said Sarah?
I said so.
Oh,
No, I said-
Stephen said Sarah.
I said vacancy.
Okay, so Goshen was Sarah's land. When they had thing where Sarah was taken by Paro, and then he gives wealth and this, that, and the other thing to Abraham to make amends, to settle the thing. He also gives the eternal deed to Goshen to Sarah. It's her land. Okay, now, what do we know about Sarah?
That she was the
So
best,
happens
the
that
strongest,
she what?
that she was the greatest,
She was what?
even more prophetic than Abraham.
She was even more prophetic than Abraham. So that's where they were for a number of years in Goshen. Okay. Okay, let's do a little bit of halacha. I mean, there's endless on Hannkah. I just wanted to whet your appetite somewhat. Oh, just a couple of other nice things. If you count 25 words, and this is not my style, but it's great. If you count 25 words, starting with the word Bereshit, you get to the word Or. So 25 kafe from Bereshit to Or. If you count the Masaot, the 42 Masaot stops in the desert, the Sefer B'Midbar, some of us learned that together over the summer. If you count to the 25th one, the name of it is Hashmona. Hashmona. So, just for those gematria Kabbalistic souls within us, just a couple of fun things with it. Okay, let's do some halachot. What is the mitzvah of lighting the candles achieved? At what point is the mitzvah achieved? We'll make it a multiple choice question. When the candles burn for a half hour or more, or when we first light?
As soon as,
Wasn't a multiple.
Waiting for the third choice.
as soon as you light them, as soon as you light them in a place where they would not blow out, your
Excellent.
mitzvah.
Excellent. As soon as you light them in a place where they wouldn't blow out, you fulfilled the mitzvah. Very good.
Can I give another idea?
Yeah.
When the miracle is proclaimed, because isn't that part of the whole point of the menorah to proclaim the miracle?
When is a miracle proclaimed?
Like, because you're supposed. That's why we do it by the windows so people can see it.
Oh, okay, good. That's what. Yeah, good. Same point. Very nice. So if you do it where you're supposed to do it, how you're supposed to do it, then it happens immediately, right? It's the mitzvah is fulfilled immediately. Which means if you set it up all right and it blew out, you don't have to relight it, right? You don't have to relight it. Good. Now, we have something very interesting here, right? What if a person forgot to say the beracha? First of all, how many candles do we need? What's the absolute obligation? How many candles per night? One. Good, very good. So if we say when we move tonight to, let's say we light the first candle and we forgot to say the beracha, right? We light the first candle, we forgot to say the beracha. The beracha should be said on the first candle, the new candle, right? Can we say it on the second candle?
I would think yes.
The answer is yes. Very good. If we're on the 8th night and we lit 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, can we say it on the last candle? The answer is yes. But why is that a problem? Why is that so difficult? The difficulty is the following. Yeah.
But you're doing the lighting, and then you're saying you're doing all those lightings without the beracha.
Good. So what are you saying the beracha on?
We're thinking the 8th candle though is tonight's night, not the first candle.
Well,
if I skipped all these and I'm gonna now remember, I gotta make a beracha.
so the 8th candle is for tonight, right? For the 8th.
Right. So I lit that. So what's my beracha? I get it. You only have to light once.
Beautiful.
But
So
this was my night.
Beautiful,
not this.
Stephen. Perfect. That's perfect. Right? So now what are we saying? We're saying that we can make the beracha on the hidur mitzvah, the extra, the beautification of the mitzvah, which is the additional candles. We can make the beracha on the additional candles, meaning that even though this is the beautification of the mitzvah and not the core mitzvah, we have in Hanukah an interesting thing where we say, hidur mitzvah mitzvah dame, right? The beautification of the mitzvah is no less important than the mitzvah itself. Therefore, I'm going to make the beracha on the hidur, on the beautification. Okay, now, good with that? So that's bombshell number one, right? I can make the beracha. I already finished the chiyuv, as you said. I'm moving into a place of extra, and not mechuyab. If a person lit one and left on the 8th night, it's totally okay, right? Now, but if I say it on the 8th one, it's still good. So I'm stretching the chiyuv in a very exceptional way, unusual way. We don't generally do this. I'm stretching the chiyuv and the opportunity to complete the chiyuv to the end of the road. And I'm saying that the hidur mitzvah, the beautification of the mitzvah, even until that extent, is no less than the mitzvah itself. Okay, that's shock number one in terms of Hanukah lighting the candles. But what really makes it fascinating is that generally speaking, a hidur mitzvah is what percentage greater than the mitzvah itself? Depends exactly how you calculate it, but it's about 1.3, right, Joe? What do you got? It's about 1.3. So in other words,
That out.
What?
How do you quantify that?
Very good. So let's say it's an etrog that you want to buy, and you want to be mahadir. You want to go further and beautify the mitzvah. If typically a etrog costs $10, you buy one for, let's say, $12.50, $13. Now that's the maximum you have to spend
To make
fill the criteria if you're doing mitzvah, right? Good. Now, very good. So now, in terms of Hanukah, how far does the Hidur mitzvah go?
8 times.
800.
8 times.
Right.
800%. 1 second. You said that throughout Halakha, a Hidur is capped at, let's call it 30. It's capped.
Meaning you can't.
Now, you can go more, but you didn't do anything.
Oh, okay.
You didn't do anything. The extra, you could spend extra money, but you didn't really do anything.
So if you get the basic drug is $10, once you hit $13, you're in the Hebrew.
You did. So if you
You're
spend 80, you didn't do anything. Very good. Over here, we're breaking that rule, and we're saying that the Hidur mitzvah goes up to 800%. But more than that, we're saying you can make a beracha up to the 800%.
wow.
It's great. It's great. It's great. It's great. And why is that?
So why apply that here?
Why apply that here? And I have to stop a few minutes early today, so we'll wrap with this. Why is that? And why apply that here? Because we say that there ain't nothing more important than Persumei Nisa, than to proclaim and publicize a miracle. And therefore, because the greater number of candles will enable a greater level of revelation and of publication of the miracle, we break the rule of Hidur Mitzvah. We extend it dramatically. And not only do we break the rule of Hidur Mitzvah to go all the way to, let's call it 800%, it's really more, but let's go 800%. On the last night, it's 800. But we did every night, thousands of percents, right? Because every night we were there way beyond the 1.2, right? Way beyond every night, right? Okay, very good. So we're saying that you must. You can't. God forbid, person can't afford it. Can't afford it. If a person can't afford it, they must do all the Hidur, and you can say the beracha till the end of the Hidur, which could be on a given night 800%. And why? Because what trumps it all is the Persumei Nisa, is publicizing the miracle. Why? Because we feel so strongly, going back to where we started, right? That we as Jewish people and the Jewish people around us and the greater world around us, they have to know, they have to see, they have to be touched by what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does, by the fact that we do have this. We need that outreach. That outreach is essential. It's totally essential. This outreach is essential. So we need to do everything we can, everything in our power, to blunt back the perspective that it's only a physical world, that there might be a God who created this thing, but come on, he has nothing to do with anybody down here, that you can only maximize the physical, intellectual side of it, that the Torah is a document written by very smart, intellectual humans, not by God. How do you get that out there? You got that out there by proclaiming the miracle. And proclaiming, the show is the menorah, but the real work is the education and the teaching, that the light of Torah, right? The light that has to be brought out. And we symbolize it by putting the Hanukah in the front of the house. We care about the front of the house, about past part. I do care about it. I want to touch those people's lives. So because the Persumei Nisa is so important, we're going to overstep all the general criteria. I'm going to tell the person that despite the fact that he's 800% oversold, he can still make the payment.
Question.
All right, gentlemen.
Quick question. The Hidur mitzvah, can that be prior to instead of at the end? like if you're beautifying your menorah, let's say it's silver and you're polishing it up and you're making it shiny and beautiful to make it more,
Yeah, you could
that's an
certainly make
advance.
it. But we
That-
hold that really the proclamation of the Messiah is through the light. Through the light. Maybe next week we grab a few minutes at the end of one of the Gemara classes and we'll talk about the elements of the light, in the wick, above the wick, the colors and this, that, because they're also very important and symbolic. Great. David, you're the one who asked for this, and we didn't see you, or we heard very little from you.
I'm sorry, it was just a very busy family morning, running around.
Okay, all right. Good
Shalom,
for
everybody,
Sorry,
and,
Shabbat shalom.
But I'll see you tonight.
Everybody,
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Hag
Shabbat
Sameach.
Sameach.